Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Wherever you are, we warmly welcome each and every one of you, our institution of Global Professionals free webinar. I am Sir Jason S. Humang, a licensed professional teacher and currently teaching at Codotete National High School from the beautiful country of the Philippines. And I will be your host for today. I am proud to be associated with IGP as a global member. I feel honored and privileged to host this webinar, and it's also my delight to welcome you all in this institution of Global Professionals free webinar. Again, I thank you all for joining us today in this marvelous evening, and it's my humble request and pleasure that you will all stay with us until the end. For I'm pretty sure you'll all have many takeaways and payoffs from this episode. Moreover, you can like, comment, and even tag, share, and mention your friends in the comment box. So let's watch together and learn together because we believe that the power is gained by sharing knowledge. Every day, some new participants join with us on our free webinars. So I have a little concept about what an IGP is all about. Institution of Global Professionals, or IGP, serves student and community resource, providing holistic social work and education to create a proficient generation. IGP is a leading online skill development institute with thousands of learners worldwide. We are able to share information useful to expand knowledge, boost confidence, to face any circumstance, and most importantly, to develop own skills. We are entrusted with international recognition. IGP also provides social works because we believe that it's not effective to increase one's skills just by acquiring formal education. And so, we provide effective training and consultation to generate proficient generation all over the world. IGP also organizes webinars, trainings, offline and online courses by the best and trained speakers, coaches from the entire world to create a best learning platform for you all. Our mission is to empower people and provide each student a solid foundation of knowledge and skills to help them become a confident learner. And now, we have completed 301 episodes successfully. We expect that you are getting benefited both in personal and professional life, and we wish that you all remain with us throughout this journey. Before we begin our program, let me remind you once again, our lovely audience, to share, tag, comment, and mention your friends in the comment box because your attachment encourages us to do better and provide our best services to you all. And now, I am really excited to present to you our webinar number 302 for our topic, The Younger Within Me. And our speakers for today are Dr. Jerry J. Peterson and Ma'am Sherry Gilbert Ramsey from the United States. So let's start our program with IGP's mantra, Feed Your Skills. Right, so it's an honor for me to present to you our two resource speakers for today. Our first speaker is a co owner and a CEO of the Institute of Personal and Professional Development and Dismiss Counseling Services. And our next speaker is a licensed professional counselor, a psychotherapy speaker, a trainer, and best selling author. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome on screen Dr. Jerry J. Peterson and Miss Sherry Gilbert Ramsey.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone.
Like in the Philippines, it's good evening, ma'am. Like, how are you doing today, ma'am and sir?
Doing well. How are you all this morning or this evening?
Well, I'm doing great too. Thank you so much for asking, sir. I'm really excited to to be honest, just like on our previous episodes. I'm just kind of curious and what is the topic all about? The anger within me, because I don't know if the anger within ourselves could actually lead into positive or negative thing, because it could be both, I guess. But I guess that's what we're going to find out on our webinar for today. All
Absolutely.
right. So
Absolutely.
yeah. Anyway, if you are ready on your presentation, surgery and Ma'am Sherry, then take it away.
Thank you so very much.
All right.
And Miss Sherry, you can go ahead and begin.
Okay, today we're going to be talking about the anger in me. So, as we talk or think about anger, we know that anyone can become angry. And it's quite easy to become angry. That we may find that sometimes it's easy. But to be angry with the right person to the right degree at the right time and for the right purpose and in the right way is not always easy. So, as we think about anger, we have to think about the things we can control and what we cannot control. We have to focus on the things that we can control because we focus on the things that we cannot control, then it causes us more anger. So we know that we cannot choose how long we're going to live, but we can choose the quality of life that we're going to have throughout the years that we are living. We know that we cannot control the beauty of our face, but we can control how people view us and our expression on our face. We cannot control life's difficult moments, but we can choose to make life less difficult. We cannot control the negative atmosphere of our minds. Too often, we try to choose to control things we cannot. And too seldom, we choose to control what we can, our attitude. We can control our attitude. So today, we're not going to focus on the things that we can't control, but instead, we're going to focus on some of the things that we can control. And one of them you will see by the end of this presentation. One of the things that we can control is anger. So, what is anger management? As we talk about anger management, we know anger management refers to the reduction of disruptive, excessive, angry arousal. As I told you on the previous slide, we all get angry, and it's easy to get angry. But managing or controlling that anger is what's beneficial to not only us, but to others around us. And when we learn to control that anger and manage that anger, it helps us to be a better person.
Okay, there are some goals of anger control training. So we have some goals here that everyone should want to aspire to. One is to reduce the number of angry episodes, to teach strategies for change. In other words, how to reduce arousal, to build social skills, and to adapt to anger triggers. And we'll talk about triggers more later within the presentation. To develop cognitive coping abilities, which are basically acceptance, rational responding, and forgiveness. To reduce anger intensity, to reduce damage done during these episodes, to develop self-control over thoughts and actions, and to help to avoid relapse into maladaptive anger. So there's a discussion that we have here, and we just want you to think about it for a moment. And if you care to type into the chat, that's fine. But if you think for a moment, what are some of the attitudes? What are some of the attitudes you encountered about anger as you were growing up? Just think about it for a moment. There were some times maybe you didn't get angry, maybe you were out of control with your anger, and maybe it took a lot for you to become angry. And then the second question would be, how did they shape the way? How did these attitudes you encountered shape the way you deal with anger today? There's a difference in what uh, we had become when we were younger, and because we have learned or we have not learned how to control our anger, what we have become today. Three important principles of anger control training. One, with knowledge about what causes anger and the many problems associated with frequent, strong, and persistent anger, motivation to change increases. Change itself comes from practitioner guided, reinforced practice of new behaviors. And it takes the average person 18 months to 2 years to feel comfortable dealing with a new self imposed behavior pattern. Copious amounts of discipline are required to make the change a permanent part of your behavior pattern. So remember that it takes an average person about 18 months to 2 years to feel comfortable. That does not mean that they have changed. That does not mean that they have learned how to control or to manage their anger, but it takes that much time to just feel comfortable dealing with the new self-imposed behavior pattern, because it is a behavior modification.
Now, as we think about fundamentals of anger management, there are 5 important points that we would like to introduce to you. First of all, anger is experienced as an atomic inner experience to hurt, frustration, or anxiety or fear. So know that when you feel anger, there's probably another mechanism or another fear or emotion or some type of thing that you're experiencing that's causing that anger. And normally it's either hurt, frustration, or anxiety or fear that may be causing anger. We also know that vulnerability is one of the other things that may cause anger as well. Two, anger is a state of physical readiness. It gets us prepared to act. Normally, when we get angry, there's some sort of action that happens once we get angry, and it causes us to be ready to act upon that anger. Anger and aggression are significantly different. We'll learn that it's okay to be aggressive, but how you explore, how you show that aggression is very, very important. But anger and aggression are significantly different. When you act out aggressively because of anger, that can be a problem. How we use our anger is learned. We learn it from our parents, people around us. We learn our attitudes. We learn different things we're really willing to experience, different things we saw our parents do. We learn that anger from people around us. Number 5, we can choose how to express our anger. It is under our control. So you'll learn before today is over that anger, and you'll hear us say this many times, anger is a choice. It's a choice that you make. And we choose how to express our anger. And we can learn how to manage and control that anger.
And Sherry, it's it's important for us to understand, because some people believe that another person made them angry, or this person did it to me to make me act or react in this certain way or whatever. But as you said, when we learn, when we talk about that anger is certainly a choice, we will understand that it's up to us to basically, and that's that word manage. We can't get rid of it because we're going to understand later there's good anger and there's bad anger, but we can't get rid of the anger, but it is under our control.
And so anger based according to my choosing. So I told you that anger is a choice. So we're going to talk about choice based anger control. Choice based anger control is based on the idea that anger is a choice. People just don't become angry out of the blue. They choose to become angry. Dwight D. Eisenhower said the history of free men is never written by chance, but by choice, their choice. And Webster Dictionary defines choice as the act of selecting, the power of choosing or having options. So whenever you become angry, you have a menu of options available to you about how you manage or cope with your anger. You can choose to explore, to be explosive, or to be calm. Only you can choose how you're going to express your anger. If you are prone to become angry, you may have developed a habit pattern of reacting without thinking when you're angry. You know, a lot of us, we react without thinking. And so when we become angry, we do the first thing that comes to our mind instead of thinking about rational choices that we can make instead of becoming explosive or allowing that anger to control us.
Absolutely.
If you keep making the same choices repeatedly, they can easily become habits. So choices made frequently become habits. So when you choose to keep getting angry over and over and over again, it means that you made that choice. You chose to be angry. And when you choose to be angry repeatedly, then it becomes habitual and it becomes an automatic response because that's what you're used to doing when you become angry. So let's go back and ask this question. Anger is experienced as an atomic inner experience to hurt, frustration, or anxiety or fear. Is this true or false? I'll read the question again. Anger is experienced as an atomic inner experience to hurt, frustration, or anxiety or fear. Is this true or false? Okay.
And Sherry, let me add this if you don't mind. A prime example of it becoming a habitual pattern is, for example, myself. When I leave my home in the morning time and I go to the office, when I come out of my subdivision, I normally turn left at the stop sign. And so that's a habit for me to do, is to turn left to go to work. But if I happen to need to go to the market or to the grocery store, I get to the stop sign and I still turn left, knowing that I need to turn right because the market or the grocery store is to the right of the stop sign. And so, but it has become a habit. It has become a habitual because I normally go to the left to go to work more times during the week than I go to the market or to the grocery store. So things become a habit and they have a habit pattern which we tend to follow all the time. The same as with anger. It builds, and it becomes a habit to where now We do the same things when we're angry. We get frustrated, but we either explode or we stay calm or whatever. It becomes habitual.
So, anger based according to my choosing. Choice based anger control is designed to empower you to take control of your life by developing strategies and techniques to calm the anger within. Choice based anger control is built on simple philosophy. Our lives are the sum total of our choices and actions. As human beings, our total existence is based on the daily choices we make, the action we take. In essence, we choose and behave our way through life. Everything we do is by choice. When we wake up in the morning, we think about, am I going to go to work today? Am I going to lie in this bed all day? We think, am I going to have breakfast this morning? Or am I not going to skip breakfast this morning? As we go out as we get ready for work, we make choices about what we're going to wear, what we're going to put on to go to work. When we're in our car, as Miss Dr. Geary stated, we think about, am I going to go right? Am I going to go left? Which way am I going to travel to work today? So everything we do in life is a choice, and anger is no different. Anger is also a choice, and how we react to it is definitely a choice. So we are responsible for choosing the direction, meaning, and purpose of our lives. Choice-based anger control premise is that a transformed mind leads to a transformed life.
Absolutely. If everyone can just say, I've got the power, and that's a broad statement, but truly, we have the power. The power of choice is one of humankind's greatest gifts. You are a free agent when it comes to your choices. All right. So you are what you choose to be. Your parents provided you with the basic building materials for whom you may become. However, it is your choice to assemble the materials in any fashion you choose. So you're not responsible for your genetics, but you are responsible for how you use what you have inherited. You are in part the product of your genes and early experiences. However, in each of our lives, there comes a time when we must accept that we are not determined. We are not determined by our past conditioning, but by our choices. And choices are the great arbiter of life. Through your choices, you become self-determining. We are the product of our choices and our actions. So nature and nurture have an impact on us. But the final product of who we become is determined by the choices we make at critical moments in our lives. Whether you believe it or not, you are now experiencing your past choices. Your tomorrow depends upon your choices today. I want to say that one more time. Your tomorrow depends upon your choices today. The choices you make right now will affect you tomorrow, good or bad or indifferent. So, in order to choose, you have to be aware. You must be aware in order to choose. So choosing is the most important activity in your life. Even not choosing is a choice. Say it again. Not choosing is a choice because you chose not to choose. All your behaviors stem from your choices. When you learn to make right choices easily and confidently, you will begin to take charge of your life. So while others may provoke or push your hot buttons, you're point to yourself and say, I am responsible. I am 100% responsible for my angry thinking, for my angry feelings, for my angry choices, for my angry actions. I am 100% responsible. No matter who pushed the button, no matter what triggers were triggered, I am responsible for my thinking, my feelings, my choices, my actions. So, having made the choice to manage your anger, it is imperative that individuals practice the skills taught frequently in order to subdue the habit of anger. Choosing basically involves being alert, being awake, alive. To choose means to make conscious selections of our thoughts, conscious selections of our words, feelings, and our behaviors. So, choice anger control requires that you become more aware of your choices you make. The more consciousness you bring to your daily living, the more options you have available to you. So most of your choices, and we're going to go through that illustration in a moment, in a few minutes, but most of your choices happen below your awareness, and they manifest, they're made known in your habit patterns of interaction. One of the major benefits of habits is they help you to operate more efficiently. So if you had to think about every choice you made, you could not leave your home to go to work or school. However, when it comes to anger, this atomicity can cause life-threatening disorders and situations. You can be ruled by your habits, whether your habit patterns and their accompanying consequences are positive or negative, depends on the choices you make at the situational choice point. You can choose to allow your mind to be dominated by anger and resentment, or you can choose to be calm and forgiving.
So, in order to choose, first of all, as Dr. Geary stated, you must be aware. You must be awake. In order to stop the habit of anger, you must first choose to become and remain aware of staying focused on your calming choices and behaviors. The practice of getting angry is easy, but developing anger control as a habit is difficult. Anger management requires continuous practice. Living calm must become a way of life. IGP tells you to feed your skills. Anger management is a critical skill in not only life, not only business, but most importantly, relationships. So understand the power of choice, the power of being able to make the right choice. Our lives are is choice driven. As human beings, we're involved in a continuous process of making choices. We literally choose our way through life. How we have a good relationship with others is based on the choices we make during our interactions. We may not be responsible for what happened to us in the past, but we are totally responsible for what happens to us in our present, in our future. And I think it's important to point out that as we build what we call resilience, we learn to make better choices based upon our actions from the past. And it helps us to make better choices in the present and the future. So being responsible means causing things to happen in your life based on your choices. Choice is a way of creating ownership of your actions. So let's talk about the art of making choices. So there are four major styles for making choices. The first choice making method is called the impulsive style. Now, this style of making choices does not take into consideration the outcome. When we're impulsive, we don't care about the outcome. We don't care about what happens. We don't think about what happens after we make that choice. People who use this style for making choices are often living with regret. They're regretting their decisions. And individuals who are impulsive choice makers tend to act under the stress of the situation and the moment. They do not consider the long-term consequences. There are many people who are in jail and in prison who had this type of choice making style. And they don't think about it to after the fact, to after they're incarcerated or locked up, and they think about how could I have made a better choice? But by then it's too late. So we must make choices. We must think about the choices we make before we make them, not after we make them. And so they forget that they cannot escape the consequences of their actions. For every action, there's a consequence. And for every action, there's a reaction. So if you choose to express anger to someone else, you can expect a reaction from them. And hopefully that reaction does not have long-term physical or emotional consequences to the person who made the choice, which is you, or the other person. Listening to other people. So the second style for making choices is listening to other people. A lot of times we have our friends, family, people that we love that influence us, that will be in our ear telling us things, telling us the choices that we should make. But we have to kind of discern like when we should seek counsel and take that advice. It's okay to have friends or family that we listen to who may give us advice, but we have to discern when to take that advice. When we are emotional or angry, we should seek counsel first to discuss our options. Sometimes when we're angry, we can't think of those options. We get a blank and we can't think of the choices or correct choices to make. So it is good to seek counsel during those times because someone else may have better options than you may have, or they may be able to think of things that you may not be able to think of because at that time you're at a boiling point.
Absolutely.
However, we must be careful regarding the individuals that we seek counsel from. Everybody does not have our best interest at heart. There will be some people who will be in your ear who will be telling you to do things because they are meaning to cause you harm, because they know that there are consequences. Know that those people are sitting on the sidelines, they're calm. And so they can think rationally at that time. But they may be telling you to do things that are irrational. They could be yes people. We don't want to get in the habit of listening to people who always are going to tell us what we want to hear. We want to seek counsel from people who are going to tell us things that are the best things for us. And sometimes that means things that we don't want to hear. And so we need to make sure we seek counsel from people who are going to tell us the truth. On the other hand, we may use peer pressure to convince us that that's our position. So if someone's telling you things to do, they may make you believe that that's your choice that you're making, or that's what you're choosing to do, when in actuality they're pressuring you to make that choice. They're more invested in their perspective than your welfare. There are people you're going to encounter that have their own agenda. And when they have their own agenda, they're going to push their agenda upon you and make you believe that that is your choice. So be careful when listening to other people.
Absolutely. I mentioned to you earlier, just a few moments ago, that making no choice at all is still making a choice. You made a choice to not make a choice. So the next choice making style is not making a choice. So many people allow the situation to make the choice for them. Either they procrastinate and allow the pressure of the situation to dictate their response, or they don't understand that not making a choice is a choice. In other words, I decided not to do anything, so I make the choice to not to do anything. So in not making a choice, you still choose. The next one, deliberate. The last choice making style is deliberate choice making. This type of choice making style results from careful and thorough consideration of a decision. These are our thinkers. These are our ones who contemplate, and they sit down and they try to make rational decisions. It is characterized by being aware of the consequences of our actions. It asks the question, if this, then what? All right. And when angry, when we're angry, we often react and quickly make choices that may not be in our best interest. All right. Sometimes we just, whatever comes to mind, we just do it because that's just who we are. Sometimes we're not thinkers. Sometimes we don't deliberately make choices. So deliberate choice makers are slow and unhurried as they allow time to consider the impact of their choices on others as well as themselves. So deliberate choice makers may use others to help them think about their issues. They're not in a rush. They're not in a hurry to make a choice. And they get those people to help them before they reach a decision. So to deliberate means to think about your thinking, your feelings, and actions before proceeding. What are the consequences? If I say this, then what? If I do this, then what? If I behave like this, then what? And they deliberately think about these things because they are important to them, because they want to make the right choices, they want to make the right decisions. There are 4 important facts regarding anger. When angry or highly aroused, we tend to make bad decisions. When we are angry, our ability to make rational decisions and use emotional intelligence is severely compromised. We tend to dumb down when we allow our anger to take control. So when anger begins to take control, we're no longer in control. And therefore, what happens is we lose, when we're angry to a certain point, we begin to lose oxygen to the brain. Without that oxygen, you're not going to survive. All right. But you have to come back to what is called the center of focus. You have to breathe. You have to know some breathing techniques. You have to breathe to bring yourself back to the center of focus. So when you have that focus, you're able to make rational decisions. You're able to think, and you're able to do other things with being in control and not out of control. So when angry, we tend to hurt family or significant others. Research indicates that 75% of our anger is directed at people we love or care about. We tend to suffer from the adage that familiarity breeds contempt. And when angry, we tend to become unreasonable. When this happens, we're not receptive to hear any new ways of looking at our dealing differently with what or whom we allow to trigger our anger. It's like in a relationship, a husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever you want to say, significant other. It's like in that relationship. I like to say someone has to have some type of intelligence about them. And when you're arguing, you want to have a conversation, but instead you tend to argue. And so in an argument, things escalate. One of the things that escalate is our voice. Our voice, the volume of our voice escalates. So he says something, and when she says something, she's a little bit louder. And then he doesn't want to hear what she's saying, so he gets a little bit louder. She disagrees with what he's saying, so she gets a little bit louder, and then he gets a little bit louder. But we have to come back down and get to the center and focus, because what happens is we have to listen to one another. And when we begin the process of listening and communicating with one another, because what I'm saying, I can't really, I'm not hearing you if your volume is going up and up and up. I'm not listening because I don't hear you. Only thing I hear is what I'm saying, what I'm stating. And so what has to happen is we have to be able to communicate. We have to be able to share our feelings, share how we feel, without getting into arguments. And we'll deal a little bit about that a little later as well. So when angry, we get physically strong. You ever seen somebody get angry, and all of a sudden they can just pick up something, and you didn't think they can pick it up because they're so small built, but they pick those things up and they throw them across the room, and you're like, wow, that person's like the Incredible Hulk or something, but mentally and spiritually we're weak. And angry self-talk can trigger a chain reaction of thoughts that can keep anger alive long after the incident is over. Also, anger can harden our hearts toward forgiveness and empathy. All right. So that negative self-talk, we have to get rid of the negative self-talk. If they say one more thing to me, I'm going to kill them. If they say one more thing to me, if they look at me wrong, I'm just going to go off. I'm going to do this. We have to get rid of that negative self-talk. And we have to learn the process of forgiveness. And that's a hard thing when it comes, when we believe that someone has triggered our anger and made us feel a certain way and react a certain way. It's hard for us to forgive people for those particular things. A short quiz it out. Just think about these things for a moment. If you want to answer them within the chat, that is fine. But what is choice-based anger? We talked about that. What is choice-based anger? Is it basically just being able to make a rational choice? What is it? What is choice-based anger? And then the other ones, what are the 4 choice-making styles? You got to remember those styles. We talked about, and I'll go a little bit back as we talked about, making a choice. Or not making a choice is a choice. We talked about deliberate. We talked about those things. So, you figure out the other 2. And if you want to type those things within the chat, you're more than welcome to do so. All right. So what is choice-based anger? And what are the 4 choice-making styles? All right. Let's go into one of my favorite. I really love this because of the fact that it helps us to understand where it all begins. All right. So there are 5 stages to an anger episode. 5 stages. All right. First, if you look at the left of the actual volcano, down at the bottom, it says trigger stage. And then the next one going up the volcano says escalation. And then at the top, of course, you see all the lava spewing out of the volcano. That's the explosive stage. And then coming down to the right, calm down stage, and the post-explosion depression stage. So remember those: trigger stage, escalation stage, explosion. So the trigger stage, down at the bottom left, the trigger stage is characterized by the introduction of the accident that triggers the arousal of angry feelings. It triggers the arousal. Someone has pushed a button. I like to say I have a couple buttons on my shirt here, and they're buttons. And if one person was to trigger or to push my buttons, and you have to understand that the people who push your buttons or your triggers are the people who know you best. Right? Sometimes that's family members. Sometimes that's coworkers because you're around them a lot. But it just triggers the feeling, the arousal of angry feelings. Usually during this phase, angry self-talk begins. Don't say anything else to me. Just leave me alone. Those things begin to happen, which basically initiates the movement to the next stage, which is the escalation stage. Now, in this stage, things are beginning, as the word states here, to escalate. All right, escalation. It is during this stage that the signs of increasing anger arousal are more discernible. All right, you can see things happen. You can see people clenching their fist, or they can be tightening up their jaws and grinding their teeth. You know, you look at a baby in the grocery store, an angry baby at a market or whatever, and when they get real angry, you tend to see some of them go, and you can tell that they're angry. And this is how we look sometimes. People can tell that it's getting to the escalation stage. Some of our eyes may turn red. We begin to sweat in the palm of our hands, or we begin to profusely sweat on our foreheads, or either up under our armpits. All right. So this happens as a result of the hormone adrenaline being released in the body, preparing it for the fight or flight syndrome. All right. It is during this phase that we become full of what we consider PEP, and that is psychologically aroused, physically aroused, and emotionally aroused. All right. And then we have, of course, stage 3. This is where the police is called. This is where something has truly happened. Someone has gotten hurt, someone is killed, someone is raped, or whatever. It is during this particular time. It's the explosion, the aggression here. During this stage, the anger gets to the boiling point, like this volcano here. It gets to the boiling point, and the angry person explodes. This is when verbal abuse, threats, physical abuse, property damage, abuse, and even rape, homicide, suicide may occur. All right. And then we get to stage 4. What goes up must come down. All right. We can't stay angry forever, or we will kill ourselves. All right. So then we have the calm down stage, stage 4. Basically, this stage is characterized by the individual beginning the process of returning to a calm state. They're beginning to breathe. They're beginning to come back to what we call the center of focus. This is what's going on right now. And as a result of the adrenaline reduction in the bloodstream, the body returns to the pre-arousal state. All right. Also, the individual can think more rationally. And this process takes about 1 hour. Remember that it takes about 1 hour for a person to return back to some type of normalcy from having that explosive anger episode there. And then stage 5, which is our post-explosion depression stage. During this stage, the anger exploder may, and we use that word literally, may regret, may feel ashamed, or even depressed about not managing anger appropriately. Some people don't care. They said, I said what I said, I meant what I said, and I will not take it back. Some people just believe it, and they will not regret that they got anger. But some people feel bad after they've exploded, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people say, that's just me, take it or leave it. But that's truly how it is. I think I'll allow Miss Sherry to think first. All right, Miss Sherry. All right. Think first means to act intentionally. In all anger situations, you should take the opportunity to really think before you act. That's what my mother used to always tell me. She used to say, Gary, think before you act. She would always say also the key word of the day is listening. And she would make me repeat it back to her. What is the key word of the day? And I would say listening. And she said, and think about it. She said, because you need to think before you act. And so when you are feeling angry, pause and ask yourself, what effect will my words, what effect will my decisions, what effect will my actions have on this person? If you are mindful, you will think about what you want to accomplish before you act. All right. So you will sort out feelings from facts, and you will respond by intentionally thinking of ways to control your anger. You have to think of ways to control your anger. What am I saying? You have to think of ways and how to manage your anger. You can't get rid of anger. You definitely can't get rid of it. It's an emotional part of us. Anger is an emotion. You can't get rid of it. It's there. All of us get angry at some point, but what really counts is what we do within that anger situation or that anger episode. Anger management is about making choices. Each person must learn that he or she has within their control the power to determine the outcome of their anger. So when anger is a habit, it may seem that we have little or no control over it. Remember, I told you about going out the driveway and getting to the stop sign, turning left to go to work. It's a habit to turn left. So when I want to turn right, I can't turn right, or I don't think about turning right because it has become a habit of turning left. So most habits are designed to aid us in living more effectively. For example, when most people are getting dressed, they do not think about which leg to put the first in the pants. They don't think about that. However, upon close analysis, most people put the same leg first in their pants each time. So next time you put your pants on, pay attention to what leg you put in the pants leg first. However, upon close analysis, watch this, people put the same leg in first. The reason for this is that these actions are the result of repetition. Repetition is the root of all habits. By performing an act over and over and over, sooner or later, you do not have to think or act to perform it. It just becomes habit. And the same is true with destructive anger, because it is usually an automatic response to some provoking stimuli. All right. You always, always, always have choices available. Remember that. You always have choices available to you. There's no such thing as I didn't have a choice. You always have choices available to you. All right. In the case of anger, you should choose to act to resolve the anger episode, to resolve it, not to escalate it, because you saw, according to the volcano, what happens when there's escalation. Someone's going to explode. So you should choose to act to resolve the anger episode based on a thoughtful, calm, positive, and win-win approach. Awareness allows choice. In other words, GAP, grab a pause. Most speakers you hear, I'm not sure how many speakers you have heard before, but most speakers, they tend to grab a pause. So what you hear people speaking, and sometimes they'll say, and it gives them that 1, 2, 3 second to think about what they're going to say. And it's amazing how when you grab a 3-second pause, how you can think and make a decision within a 1 to 3 second pause. So most people think that a stimulus causes our response. People who believe that other people can make them angry tend to think, since you did that, then I'll do this. This is a classic example of the stimulus response mindset. All right. We must use this type of rationale for our behavior. We are avoiding accepting responsibility for our thinking and our acting. Awareness empowers us to turn a reaction into a response, or to turn a negative into a positive. So, but by being aware, It allows us to intervene between the stimulus and response by grabbing that 1 to 3 second pause. And grabbing a pause gives you time to reevaluate the situation and make a conscious best choice on how to respond. Many times you can't just respond off the top of your brain. You need to think about it for a moment, because remember, the things that we do, our behaviors, things, the choices that we make, we're responsible for those. We're responsible, and we have to individually understand how it affects us, how it affects others. All right. Did you know that when you get angry, and that anger can cause hypertension, anger can cause strokes, heart attacks, and it even affects us psychologically? This is some serious stuff. And if we don't take anger seriously, I truly believe that everyone in the world needs to take an anger management class, because we don't see ourselves when we get angry. We don't understand. We don't even hear ourselves when we get angry, but others do. And when others tell us how we have performed our behaviors within those anger situations or anger moments, we don't believe them, because we say, no, that's not me. I just gave you a piece of my mind. That's not me. I just said what was on my mind. But you don't understand what you just said. And maybe it's not what you said. Maybe it's how you said it. Or maybe it's not what you did. It's how you did it. And we don't ever think about those things because, of course, we're always right. So recognize choice. How do we do it? A stimulus, number one, a stimulus occurs. Example, my partner says or doesn't say or doesn't do something. You become aware that you are beginning to react negatively. You become aware. Awareness is everything. All right. You can't get a person who's a drug addict, you can't get them to go to rehab unless they are aware. You can get them to go, but it's not going to do anything. It's not going to change anything, because when they come out, they're going to want to go to the same environment. Because why? Because there's no awareness that I have a problem. That awareness provides you with the moment of choice. You grab a pause, GAP. Remember that, GAP, grab a pause. At this moment, you can choose the negative emotional reaction, or you can choose to respond positively. This is called responsibility. And a lot of people are not responsible to or for themselves. This is the ability to respond. So people do things as a stimulus, then your mind, examine my choices, and then the response is my response. Let's look at a little neuroscience in anger. I kind of like this, and I hope you grasp this pretty quick. The brain is a highly complex structure, and the research on how it functions is still in its infancy. So you have, if you take a ball of yarn and you see that yarn being intertwined all the way through, the brain is that complex with a lot of wiring and everything. So for simplicity's sake, the brain, we're going to divide the brain into two sections. The prefrontal cortex here, which we consider the thinking brain, and then the limbic system, which is the emotional brain. And I'll give you some other names for those that are synonymous with those in just a few moments. But let's talk about, we're going to divide two parts: the prefrontal cortex, which is the thinking brain, and then the limbic system. All right. And so the thinking brain is also, we say prefrontal cortex, and also the executive function, or the CP unit. That's basically another name we can call it. And then we have the emotional side of the brain, which we call the hijack function, or also the limbic system, or the emotional, or the amygdala. All right. We have those different things that are pretty much synonymous to that. All right. Let's look at it for a moment. Emotional brain says, let's just be spontaneous. The thinking brain says, you know what? Let's just take it slow. Let's think about it. Let's not move too fast. All right. The thinking brains is directing, but the emotional brain is all about survival. All right. The thinking brain says, let's adapt to new situations, and the emotional side of the brain says, let's respond to new situations with apprehension. All right. The thinking brain is self-regulation, self-regulating. The emotional side of the brain has little or no self-control. The thinking brain analyzes. The emotional side of the brain, there's no critical review. The thinking brain evaluates. The emotional side of the brain operates from past programming. The thinking brain is proactive. The emotional brain is reactionary during angry situations. The thinking brain is slow to respond when angry, but the emotional brain is fast to respond. It's in survival mode. All right. The thinking brain thinks, catch this, it thinks, it feels, it acts or feels, thinks, then acts. But the emotional brain, what does it do first? It acts. It doesn't think, it acts, then it feels, it thinks or feels, acts, thinks. Thinking is the last thing that the emotional brain wants to do. All right. The thinking brain is logical. The emotional brain is emotional, E plus motion minus energy factor. All right. And then we have the thinking brain considers. It considers consequences prior to acting. The emotional side of the brain, consequences reviewed after acting. So I think about what I'm going to do in my prefrontal cortex. And then in my emotional side, I'm not going to think. Whatever the consequences are, they are what they are. All right. Neuroscience and anger here, we're talking about, as illustrated here in the diagram here in the picture, you have an emotional brain and you have a thinking brain, and an effective way to learn how to communicate during an angry episode is to decide which brain you want to talk to. So basically, when there's an argument going on, you want to try to talk to a person's thinking brain. You can talk to either one. You can talk to their emotional brain, or you can talk to their thinking brain. When you talk to the thinking brain, it's intellect. When you talk to the emotional brain, you're going to get things that you didn't necessarily want to get back at you. So you have to determine which brain you want to speak to. So if you choose to speak to a person's emotional brain, most likely they will respond back to you from their emotional brain. Example, if you're yelling at someone, your typical will yell back at you. However, if you want to have a calm and logical response, talk to the person's thinking brain. Learning to talk to a person's emotional brain when you are highly aroused takes mindful practice. However, this skill can be learned and mastered with strong concentration and consciousness. All right. Now let's break it down for a moment. I said something about deciding which part of the brain you will talk to and from. So here's the amygdala here, the emotional brain, and the amygdala back here in the amygdala. And we're going to talk about the amygdala more in just a moment. I'll let Sherry take that one. There's drama. There's yelling. There's screaming and shouting and bullying and reacting. But in the thinking brain, everything is calm, healthy relationships, peace, kindness, thoughtfulness. They're totally the opposite of each other. All right. These are some of the statements that are in the emotional, the amygdala part of the brain. I hate you. You're stupid. Why can't you get it together? You act like a baby. Why don't you listen? Those are things that come from the emotional brain, the amygdala. But the thinking brain thinks like this. Can we get along? Understand before being understood. I respect you. I will listen to you. They're totally opposite. And you, in an argument or whatever, you have to understand and know which part of the brain you want to speak to. If you speak to the emotional brain, what's going to happen is you're going to get emotionalism back, drama, yelling, whatever, shouting. But if you speak to their prefrontal cortex, their thinking brain, then you're going to get some intelligent things going on there.
So let's
Is
talk
she?
about the amygdala. Anger can be a powerful emotion that can hijack a person's ability to think rationally. Anger is an emotion that generates an impulse to act. As a matter of fact, the root word of emotion is movere, which is Latin for to move. Another root origin of the word emotion is from Old French, émouvoir, which means to excite. Anger can provide energy for one to move, and usually the angry person is easily excitable. Anger causes the brain to process incoming data as a threat, and this triggers the brain to implement the fight or flight response. The amygdala also can cause us to freeze as well. So it causes the fight or flight or maybe even freeze response. If your car breaks down on the expressway in the hood and you don't know what the problem is, you cannot fix it. So we're going to talk about the root cause of anger, because if your car breaks down and you don't know what's wrong with it, then you're not going to be able to fix the problem. So you have to do some type of diagnostic test to figure out what is going on. So the same is true for learning to control your anger. For so long, many people have been told that anger was their problem. Anger is often a major symptom of unfinished business in your life. You are the problem until you fix yourself and cannot get rid of the anger that is controlling your life. Dr. Gary and I do premarital counseling. A lot of times we tell people to seek therapy or counseling, or some type of premarital counseling before they get married. The reason why we do that is because a lot of people come into relationships with problems already, problems that they haven't healed from. And so a lot of times they get angry with their spouses, and the spouse doesn't know why they're so angry. And the reason being is because they haven't dealt with the root cause of their anger. So in choice-based anger, you must explore your root issues or stuff. Anger is like a plant. Part of the plant is above the ground and part of it is below the ground. So the part that is above the ground and you can see is your anger, and you see all of its negative results. And the visible part of the plant is just a symptom of the problem that is represented by your display of anger. If you were to cut the plant off above the ground, it will grow back because you have not gotten rid of the roots. To rid yourself of intense anger, you must first get rid of the roots or stuff or whatever is causing you to feel angry. The roots or stuff of anger comes in a variety of forms and are unique to everyone. Some examples of roots are unresolved anger, feelings of abandonment, whether it be from your parents or spouses or someone in your life, abuse, that includes physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, low self-esteem, grief, shame, issues, if you had issues with your mother or father. Each of us has stuff that we have to work on. And so we have to get to that root cause in order to be able to fix whatever we need to fix in order to control that anger. So anger causes us to be different. And I want you to think about acronym DIF. So there are two types of anger. One is state anger, and the other is trait anger. State anger is defined as a temporary emotional state. State anger is fleeting and of short duration. People who demonstrate state anger typically get upset and they express their anger inappropriately or sometimes appropriately and let it go. However, if a person is angry for a long period of time and their anger is very intense, then their state anger can become trait anger. Now, a person who displays trait anger has a general tendency to react angrily to perceived provoking situations. I want you to think about perceived provoking situations. People high in trait anger tend to have a long memory of offense against them. These people can hold grudges for hours and hold anger for hours, days, weeks, months, even years. If you're still upset about something that somebody said to you years ago, then you may have this type of anger. Also, people high in trait anger tend to express the anger in an intense manner, and it happens frequently in their lives. High trait anger people are basically reactors to anger triggers. High trait anger people overreact to anger provoking stimuli. A person whose anger has long duration typically is so sensitive that their reaction to anger triggers can be too intense. Thus, they get angry too frequently, which begins the slow process of them morphing into a person with a short anger fuse. High trait anger changes you, and you may become different, or DIF, in an easy provoked person. Now, DIF stands for duration, how long you stay angry, the intensity, what happens during that anger, what do you do? Do you punch a hole in the wall? Do you punch someone else? What is the intensity of that anger? And of course, frequency. How often do you get angry? Do you get angry all day long, or every time someone says something to you or triggers you? So DIF stands for duration, intensity, and frequency. So anger causes us to be different, or DIF. And I just told you duration, intensity, and frequency. The DIF process causes problems in 5 major domains in our life. Sometimes we be unforgiving. Sometimes we stop talking. Sometimes we have little or no inner peace. Little or no meditation. And sometimes we can become more cynical. Sometimes we can become what we call physically diseased. Anger can cause us to be sick. Sometimes we can hold anger. We hold anger within our bodies. And so when we hold this anger within our bodies, it causes us to become physically ill or diseased. That's why a lot of us may get heart disease, cancer, a lot of different illnesses, because we hold in our anger, and it directly is related to our DIF, our duration, intensity, and frequency of our anger. Anger has the power to affect every organ and cell in your body. Anger puts the body in flight or fight mode, which causes an increase in stress releasing hormones. Under prolonged or frequent stress responses, the body can begin to deteriorate. You also find people who get angry all the time. Once they start the release of these hormones, when they do decide to start to learn how to control the anger, if they've been angry a long time in their lives, then sometimes they may still get sick, and they may still get heart problems, and they still may die later on because their body is used to the release of those hormones within their body. Constant anger can cause headaches, high blood pressure, strokes, or even heart attacks. So what causes us to be different? Distance or separation. Sometimes we get angry because of distance or separation. Negative feeling about our partner. When angry with our partner, we tend to focus only on the negative aspects of their personality. When angry with our partners, we can make the case that they're no good and they should be at least marginalized or sentenced to the land of forgetfulness. Unresolved hurt. Some people have difficulty letting go of past infringements. They always remember the hurt caused by their partner and they will bring it up frequently throughout the years. Don't become an elephant with your past hurt. You know, an elephant is huge and it just sits there and it's heavy. And so just like that elephant is heavy, anger can be heavy. Unresolved hurt can be heavy and weigh heavy on your heart. So you need to seek to restore fellowship with your partner as soon as possible. So you're not carrying around this unresolved hurt and resentment. A family partner may experience psychological abuse. Yelling or calling names is still a form of psychological abuse. It can destroy communication and goodwill. Children, we talked about earlier, children receive a legacy of anger. We directly receive how we tend to control or handle or manage anger from our parents. Parents who display anger toward each other in the presence of their children are teaching their children the tricks and skills of how to be just like them. As the child develops, the indoctrination into negative displays of anger will come back to haunt the parents in their children's relationships at home, in the school, and community. Parents who don't know how to communicate with their children or even their spouses when their children get older, their children act like them, and they'll even begin to see that they have a strained adult relationship with their children because the children never learned how to resolve anger. So during our childhood, our parents are our primary instructors on how to cope. Our parents teach us coping skills. They teach us how to deal with emotions and how to deal with anger. For the most part, most parents do an excellent job in providing their children tools to survive and skills and techniques to manage. But one of the most powerful emotions that we have is anger, and the skill and techniques to manage that is quite an important skill that we should always learn how to teach our children, how to manage their emotions, how to manage their anger. And one of the major reasons for parents is not providing adequate instruction on how to manage anger is they have little experience. They don't know how to deal with anger themselves. Why? Because they did not receive the proper skills, coping skills from their parents. So children tend to mimic their parents in how they manage their anger. So we can say that our anger styles are epigenetic. They're passed down to us from generation to generation. This session will require you to review your childhood. Now you need to learn examine how anger was used in your family. Think about it. And what skills have you acquired from your family of origin and how you presently express your anger?
Under the influence of anger is like being under the influence of alcohol. Your judgment is impaired. Your decision-making capabilities are not good. Your perceptions are distorted. Your communication skills are impaired. And your responses are illogical. Anger's influence can be experienced in the following ways: duration, how long you will be angry; frequency, how often you become angry; intensity, how intense your anger will be. And Sherry shared some of those things with us earlier in DIF. The duration of anger can range from fleeting moments to years of being trapped by anger. All right. And so thinking, if we look at it, while interviewing a lady to participate in anger choice-based anger control program, she told us that she was angry at her husband for divorcing her. And we told her that her anger was justified because it is natural for someone who was grieving over the loss of a marriage to feel angry. Thinking that she was recently divorced, I offered her my condolences. I asked her how long she had been divorced, and she said since 1968. This lady was holding on to her anger for 40 years. Anger that is held for more than a day or two can morph into resentment. The intensity of anger can influence anger duration. The more intense your anger, the longer it is likely to last. Research indicates that the more intense our anger, the greater elevation our anger, the greater elevation in psychological arousal, which is associated with longer recovery time from an anger episode. So strong feelings toward people, circumstances, and or situations can escalate and increase the intensity of our anger. Intense anger results from matters that are important to us. Intensity of anger can range from mild to strong, and it can vary within a single episode. At one moment in an argument, you may be talking mildly and then explode the next. On the other hand, anger may begin suddenly and then taper off. At low levels of intensity, anger feelings can be identified by words such as irritated, annoyed, goaded, bothered, or displeased. At mild range levels in anger intensity, anger is often associated with words such as angered, aggravated, antagonized, indignant, or mad. At strong levels of intensity, anger is often characterized by words such as raised, enraged, rabid, unhinged, wild, or out of control. Anger intensity interferes with your cognitive ability. You make bad decisions when you're angry and it's too intense. You tend to dumb down when you're under the influence of anger. Intense anger can lead to impulsive behavior. You may do things without much awareness while under the influence of anger. Under the influence of intense anger, your ability to be reasonable can be greatly compromised. Our reasonableness can be explained by understanding the refractory period that often accompanies anger. The refractory period means that there is time while angry that we are closed or not receptive to any advice and feedback. Intense anger also overrides our inhibitory controls when intoxicated by alcoholic beverages. This inhibition sets in, and one has great difficulty in censoring what one says or does. The same is true for anger. When our anger is intense, we may utter perverse things to people who love and do things we may be greatly embarrassed about later. Frequency means getting angry too often. People who get angry frequently tend to let things easily upset them. Their angry fuse is so short that it does not take a lot for them to explode. Learning to distinguish the times when it's your right to be angry and when angry isn't a good idea is very important in the management of anger. Anger that leads to aggression. Anger that leads to aggression can be very dangerous. Anger can be a catalyst that triggers aggression. Anger and aggression are at a root of all forms of abuse and often the cause of many deaths. All right, anger and an emotion and aggression is a behavior that can cause criminal, that can be criminal under certain circumstances. Anger that affects your life. You are under the influence of anger when anger interferes with your family life, your work life, your social life, and your finances. Family life. Research indicates that 75% of our anger is directed at family members or people who we love and care about. All right, here is Thich Nhat Hanh. The smallest part of the iceberg here is above the waterline. The largest part of the iceberg is below the waterline. Our mind is like an iceberg. The part of the iceberg we can see is like our conscious mind or awareness. Like the largest part of the iceberg, the largest part of our mind is called store consciousness by Master Han, and it stores all our habits, thoughts, feelings, and memories. Is the part of the brain that can propel us to act without thinking. Awareness is your conscious. Store consciousness is where your habits reside. He also created an exercise that helps us to see the impact on how anger grows in our lives. If you plant a seed in fertile soil, Master Han says, and you nurture that seed, it will grow. The same is true of emotions. Whatever seed we water within ourselves or others, that emotional seed will grow. Selective watering is an exercise to assist you in becoming aware of the thoughts and emotions you are watering and nurturing throughout the day or your life. All right, Miss Sherry.
So let's talk about the pathway to calm. Positive calming traits, first of all, is love, unconditional regard for another, no harm to self or others. It's just basically acting right. Controlling our anger, anger management is just acting right. And so, two is peace, harmony with self and others. When we have harmony with ourselves, then it's easier for us to have harmony with others. Joy is internal happiness that is not based on external circumstances. We feel joy because of ourselves. It is not dependent upon someone else's ability to give us joy, but joy is created within ourselves. Kindness, having compassion for others. Number 5, gentleness, not harsh of tone, speaking with a calm, peaceful voice, no harm or self or other with words. 6 is faithfulness, maintaining steadfastness in the face of great difficulty. Patience, the ability to wait without negative emotions. The root word for patience is pati, which means to suffer. Patience is learning to tolerate being comfortable. Goodness means praiseworthy character. For example, when someone says Chris is a good person, they are praising Chris's character. 9, self-control, maintaining self-discipline when other forces are tempting you. So watch your thoughts. Watch your thoughts for because they become your words. Watch your words for they become your actions. Watch your actions for they become your habits. Watch your habits for they become your character, and watch your destiny character for it becomes your destiny. So watch your thoughts. The issues of your life flows through your thoughts. Whatever you think about, you will eventually bring about. If anger plays a major role in your thinking, then you will tend to be predisposed to anger. Watch your thoughts, they become your words. If you keep thinking about something, sooner or later you'll be speaking about it. Thoughts are precursor of words. Your words display your thought of life. Words are nothing more than the outward expression of your thoughts. If you want to examine your thinking, become an observer of what you say. What you think and talk about becomes reality. Watch your words, for they become your actions. If you keep saying it, you eventually act upon it. You become what you practice. Pay close attention to your actions because they lead to habit formations. Habits develop slowly out of repetition. Everything and anything becomes a habit through repetition. Watch your habits for they develop your character. Your character signifies the type of person you are, whether it be positive or negative, ethical or unethical. Your character comes out of things you constantly think, feel, and act upon in life. Character is not born, it is formed and molded out of how you live and respond to life circumstances. When you build your character, you give shape and form to your life. What your character is becomes your destiny. Your destiny originates in your thoughts and is manifested by your actions. If you're headed down the wrong path, you can correct your direction quickly by changing your thinking and doing, thus alternating your destiny.
We'll talk about this just for a second. Late buildup of choices. Now our anger is beginning to boil. We can exit at this point, but it may be very difficult. So take a time out, leave the room or house, go for a walk, phone a friend, call your counselor, listen to music, do relaxation exercise, work at your hobby, exercise your ordinary chores, pray, don't act on your feelings, choices, decisions, consequences. Remember CDC. Remember not to hurt others or yourself. Don't hit or be abusive. Don't curse or call names. Practice slow, deep breathing. change positions. If standing, sit down. If sitting down, lay on the floor. Uh, Once we pass the late build up stage, we often explode. So after exploding, we try to provide a rational for our acting out. And without change, we are doomed to repeat the cycle. Anger styles, there are five anger styles here. Aggressive. This anger style often feels the need to be in control of themselves, others, and the situation. They often manipulate others until the other person feels guilty or backs down. The behavior looks like threats, abuse, humiliation. And then we have passive. A passive person tends to avoid conflict and confrontation. These people tend to not express their needs and feelings and have trouble saying no without feeling guilty. And that behavior looks like avoidance of problem, feeling fearful or uncomfortable. And then we have passive aggressive, uses subtle aggression techniques to manipulate the situation or the person. They use cues such as body language, tone, or actions to convey anger, but won't explicitly communicate it. That behavior looks like silent treatment, withdrawal, love, and affection. We have projective aggression, often appears passive. However, they are usually angry and are afraid to own and express the anger. Instead, they project that anger onto someone else, and that behavior looks like get others to act on their anger for them. And then the last one we have assertive, and I hope all of us are here at the assertive. An assertive person states their needs in an open and direct way and don't wait for someone to read their mind. At the same time, they try to consider other people's feelings and options as well. And that behavior looks like state what is on their mind, takes responsibility over their life and their choices in life. Ms. Sherry?
So thank you for joining the Anger and Me. You can follow us on Facebook or um, if you scan the QR code. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, so thank you so much, Dr. Jiri J. Peterson and Ma'am Sherry Gilbert Ramsey. Well, I'm so thrilled and I'm so speechless right now. That was really great. And it's been an honor for us to hear that marvelous presentation. It's like, to be honest, I personally learned so much, and no doubt our viewers learned so much from those beautiful insights, and most importantly, the takeaway information you both instilled in our minds. Right. So once again, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, but most importantly, your valuable time with us.
Yes,
So
thank you.
once again, let's all give a virtual round of applause to Dr. Yuri J. Peterson and Ma'am Sherry Gilbert Ramsey.
Thank you.
Right. So may I request you, Ma'am Sherry and Dr. Jerry, to please stay on the other line while we wait for our question and answer later on. Thank
Yes.
you. So before moving on to the next part of our program, may I request you all to please support IGP. So all this have to do is to share, tag, comment, and mention your friends. We will give e-certificate link in the comment box later on, and if you face any problem, you can actually collect e-certificates directly from our website www.eduigp.com. So I guess we are now ready on our quiz competition. Right, so to our new participants, all you have to do is to type in on the search engine slido.com or type in www.slido.com and type in IGP quiz and then add on your name that will appear exactly on your certificate. Right, so far we are already 41 participants on our quiz competition. Going 42, 43. So again, to our new participants, all you have to do is to type in www.slido.com and type in IGP quiz right on the search engine or on the code and simply type in your name and your certificate. All right. So for our first question, choice-based anger control is based on the idea that anger is a 100% or 90%. Is it 100% or 90%? Right? So the correct answer is 100%. Okay, so Mariveg V. Levesilia is leading. Okay, for our second question, this style of making choices does not take into consideration the outcome. Is it impulsive style or deliberate style? Again, this style of making choices does not take into consideration the outcome. Is it impulsive style or deliberate style? Okay, so the correct answer is impulsive style. So 94% got the correct answer. And Dennis Ginto Serso is now leading. Right, let's now proceed on our third question. There are times when we should seek counsel and take that advice. Is it listening to other people or listening to himself? There are times when we should seek counsel and take that advice, listening to other people or listening to himself. Three, two, and one. Okay, so the correct answer is listening to other people, 98%. All right, so our leading now is Romel John C. Aquino. For our question number four, so many people allow the situation to make the choice for them, making a choice or not making a choice. Again, so many people allow the situation to make the choice for them. Is it making a choice or not making a choice? Right? So the correct answer here is not making a choice with 44% correct answer. Right? So for our leaderboard, our first placer is Nico Den Esmiro so far. Okay, let's now move on in our question number five. So this type of choice making style results from careful and thorough consideration of a decision. Is it deliberate or indeliberate? This type of choice making style results from careful and thorough consideration of a decision. Is it deliberate or indeliberate? Okay, 94% says deliberate, and the correct answer is deliberate. Right, so let's now check our leaderboard. So we have Nico Den Esmiro as our top placer for now, right? In question number five. Okay, let's now move on. Question number six. What is the fifth stage in an anger episode according to the pyramid? Is it explosion depression or post explosion depression? The fifth stage in anger episode according to the pyramid. Is it explosion depression or post explosion depression? Right? So the correct answer is post explosion depression. Yeah, I think the third stage is the explosion depression. Right? So this time, Sir Lamberto Espelatan Jr. is leading for a score of 6/6. Right? So let's now move on to our question number 7. During the stage, the anger exploder may regret, feel ashamed, or even depressed about not managing anger appropriately. Is it post explosion depression or explosion depression? In two, one, and zero. Okay, so the correct answer here is post explosion depression. For 37% got the correct answer. So, same. We still have Lamberto Espilatan Jr. as our first placer. Next, what is GAP? Is it grab a pulse or grab a pose? What is GAP? Grab a pulse or grab a pose? In six, five, four, three, two, and one. So the correct answer here is grab a pose for 92%. Okay, Sir Lamberto Espelatan Jr. is still our is still leading in our quiz competition. Right? So let's now move on in our second to the last question. What is another name for emotional brain? Is it prefrontal cortex or cortex? Another name for emotional brain, prefrontal cortex or cortex? Two and one. All right, so the correct answer here is prefrontal cortex. 73% got the correct answer. Right, so Lamberto Espilatan Jr. is still leading 9/9. Right, so for our last question, store consciousness is where your blank resides. Habits or brain? Store consciousness is where your blank resides. Is it habits or brain? Eight, seven, six, five, four, three, two, and one. Okay, time's up. And the correct answer here is habits. And 61% got the correct answer. Okay, so congratulations to our top 10 winners. Okay, so for our first placer, we have Emily A. Franhe. Right, so second placer is Crispiniano D. Candido. Third, we have Lamberto Espelatan Jr. Fourth, we have Dennis Ginto Serzo. Fifth, we have Ginalyn Villares Rexon. Sixth, we have Marivic V. Clavicilia. Number seven, we have Aida Ramirez Martinez. For our eighth placer, we have Gemalyn V. Rivera. Ninth placer, we have Leia Facunla. And finally, for our 10th place, we have Sir Joel A. Ben Bernazor. All right, so once again, congratulations to our top 10 winners for our quiz competition. Right, so at this juncture, let's now call back once again on screen our amazing speakers, Dr. Jerry Peterson and Ma'am Sherry Gilbert Ramsey, for our question and answer portion. All right, so thank you so much, Dr. Guri and Ma'am Sherry, for staying with us.
Yes.
And audience, you can actually share or start sharing your question if you have any question, if you have confusion or clarification, or if you wanted to learn more on our episode Anger or the Anger Within Me, then you can share it to us. So again, to everyone, if you have question, clarification, confusions, or if you wanted to learn more on our episode, The Anger Within Me, then you could actually share your question with us. Right, so we have our first question from Sir Feruz Akbarov. Is anger management possible personally, and to what extent? Right, so again, for our first question, is anger management possible personally, and to what extent?
It is possible personally. That's the way we would want it to be because it's all about self imposed knowledge concerning anger. Um, I said during the process of the presentation that I believe that everyone in the world should take anger management at some point. It is possible. We actually, I know the courts in the United States actually sentence people when they get into fights and they do things. They sentence people to anger management, and so it may be sometimes the time length is determined by the court. Sometimes the time length is determined by us who are counselors, therapists. And so what happens is we may get someone who needs anger management. And so what we do an anger management assessment. All right. Which gives a lot of history of the person, their family origin, all different types of information that we collectively put together. And so we may do 6 months of anger management one time a week for an hour. That's the extent of it. We go deep. We have our own workbook that we have designed basically for people to be able to work within a workbook to help them with their anger. That with the therapy that's done by a certified anger management specialist can help them extensively with their anger because we get deep within what is the root cause of that anger without trying to go around the world and back.
All right, thank you so much, Sir Juries. Like, how about you, Ma'am Sherry? What is your insight on our first question? Is anger management possible personally, and to what extent?
Of course, as Dr. Gear stated, anger management first must be accomplished personally, because we have known that anger spills over into your professional lives as well. If you don't handle your anger personally, then you tend to, like I said, get angry in your job, in your profession, with your coworkers, and so it's about digging deep into your past, discovering, like as Gary said, past relationships, past history with your family members in order to get to the root cause of that anger so that you can become better professionally and personally.
All right, so thank you so much, ma'am and sir. So let's now move on in our next question. So for our question number two, so it seems that we don't have any question. All right, so here we have another question from Ma'am Godiva Rosell. So is getting quick to anger is a sign of depression? So is getting quick to an anger or to anger is a sign of depression.
So getting quick to anger is not necessarily a sign of depression, but things that cause us to get angry, of course, can lead to depression. So we need to get to what's causing the anger. So what's causing the anger is what leads to depression, not the anger itself. Um, and so that's why Dr. Gary and I, we do an assessment to see what the root cause of that anger is. Because once we get to the root cause of that anger, then we can figure out what other symptoms and what other issues that anger is causing. And not only that, but we can also get to those triggers of those that anger. And the triggers of that anger is what's causing the depression if someone is depressed, not the anger itself per se.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, like, how about you, surgery? Oh, okay. Do you want to answer?
I
Mhm.
Yes. Basically, just to piggyback off of what Sherry stated, anger always leads to something else. Anger can lead to anxiety. Anger can lead to depression. Anger can lead to heart attack, stroke. Anger leads to anger. Depression is not the cause of it, but anger can lead to it. So it could be an offline symptom of the anger causing you to be depressed, especially if you are aware of your anger, it can cause depression.
Depression. All right. So, thank you so much for that. Anyway, let's now move on our third question from Dr. Rahez Sudhakar Wakchure. All right. So, how to respond to angry person? So, how to respond to angry person?
You want to respond to an angry person using, first of all, the thinking brain. Um, because if you respond to them with your emotional brain, then they're going to be emotional. So you have to get that person, first of all, to think about the choices that they have. You need to present yourself in a calm manner in order to get them to calm down. But first of all, know that sometimes you can't talk to an angry person. If a person has already reached the point of anger, then it's hard to talk to that person. You need to give that person a chance to cool down, um, and to go through that calming stage that before, right, the stage right before the post um, anger stage. You need to give them a chance to calm down and gather themselves before you try to respond to that person, because an angry person is at that volcano point, and it's hard to cool down hot lava. And so you have to give them a chance to cool down before you can respond to them. So I just would say, you don't respond to an angry person. You give them that time and space that they need to calm down and cool down.
All right. So, thank you so much, ma'am. So, like, how about you, sir Jerry? So, how do you usually respond to an angry person?
Yes, sir. One of the things that we mentioned in the presentation was that it takes an average person about 1 hour to begin the process of calming down. So you need to give space, you need to give time. Uh, that person needs to take anger management, some anger management classes. You're not going to calm them down. They have to calm themselves down. How you respond to them is how they're going to respond to you. Uh, so you need to basically take your time and allow them that space, as Sherry stated, to calm down. And we say usually about an hour for the average person. Some person that has a little more going on with their anger, you would want to give them more time, but you certainly have to be careful. But one of the things I really want to say is you can't change a person. You can't change an individual, and until that person receives some type of help with their anger, then it's going to get worse.
All right. So, thank you so much for that. All right. So, we have here another question from Sir Lamberto Pilatin. So, Dr. Peterson and Ma'am Ramsey, what three basic or simple strategies that you could share to us to remain calm and control our anger in any situations in family, school, and communities? Thank you.
Well, first of all, one of a simple strategy that you can use. First of all, is breathing techniques. And so we teach that in our class, how to breathe and to use deep breathing to help you calm down. Also, meditation is another way that you can practice controlling and calming your anger. And also mindfulness, just being mindful of what's going on around you, being more emotionally intelligent, being able to pick up on social cues to know when you, not only the other person that you're talking to is becoming angry, but also being able to recognize your own triggers of anger. So those are just some basic simple strategies that I would say that can help you in any situation, whether it be family, school, or community.
Yeah, I actually use that too, like deep breathing and counting sometimes from 1 to 10.
Yes.
It works.
Counting.
Yeah, it
Yes.
works.
Absolutely.
So, like, how about you, surgery?
I would definitely say being mindful. And I understand that when we're angry, we're not mindful. When we're angry, we're not aware. When we're angry, we're angry. So when we're in a situation of being angry, we have to, the deep breathing is very important because, again, that's that loss of oxygen to the brain. You have to come back to the center of focus. But that does not normally happen until after an explosion. Uh, we need to catch it when it's in the trigger stage or when it's in the elevation stage, escalation stage. If we can catch it then by being mindful, being aware, thinking before we act or think before we say something. But once we're in the situation, it's all about the calming down process then. Because of course the exploder has already done whatever damage they are going to do unless you escalate it again or someone around them escalates them to the point that they start to react all over again. But definitely breathing, being very mindful and aware. And sometimes when you're dealing with a angry person, you have to remain calm even though you want to become angry and say things back to them and react to what they're saying to you. Don't become the escalator, but become the calmer and try to leave them alone. But those are some of the strategies I would basically think of. Uh, but it's not too many strategies once a person is already there.
All right, so thank you so much for that. I think we don't have any more questions, so I guess that ends our question and answer portion. And I think that also concludes our webinar for today. All right, so thank you so much to our amazing speakers who contributed a lot in today's episode, The Anger Within Me. So, like, once again, never ending gratitude to you, Surgery, and Ma'am Sherry, for sharing your precious time with us today. Before we finally end our webinar, any final word from you, sir, and Ma'am Sherry?
Thank you for allowing us to participate on this platform, and we are most grateful to be here, and we appreciate it. And this is something that is experience that we will never forget. Thank you so very much.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. So, like, how about you, Ma'am Sherry?
Yes, I've had the opportunity to come on the Institute of Global Professionals before. It is always a pleasure. I always enjoy teaching and giving people skills that they need to use, not only personally, but professionally. And just thank you for extending your warm welcome to us. And we look forward to partnering with you in the future.
All right, so thank you so much once again to our amazing speakers, Dr. Jiri J. Peterson and Ma'am Sherry Gilbert Ramsey from the United States. So thank you so much, ma'am and sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so dear knowledge seeker, I would love to thank you all for attending today's session. So, like, hopefully, you've learned something new and something interesting today. Please leave a review or a comment our page if you learned something wonderful on our discussion today. So once more, do not forget to collect your e-certificate and to give a check-in with IGP. Please spread the information with your friends, and we hope to see you all on our next webinar. So again, good news to everyone. Our website is now working properly. So like we had posted webinar links from last November 1st until December 26th episode with certification link and certification code. So like moreover, we had extended our diploma certificate submission on its new date, January 15 of 2022. So thank you so much for staying with us, and I hope to see you all again on our next episode. So once again, I am Sir Jason S. Yumang saying thank you, be safe, and stay happy always. Thank you. All right, so for our IGP code, it's IGP 3937. Thank you so much.